Good afternoon. Welcome to the final meeting of the Legislative Committee on Seniors, Senior Citizens, Veterans, and Adults with Special Needs. Ms. Weitzel, please call roll.
Senator Cruz Crawford.
Present.
Senator Doñate.
Here.
Senator Rogish.
Sorry. Here.
Assemblymember Edgeworth.
Here.
Assemblymember Hunt.
Here.
Assemblymember Karras.
Present.
Assemblymember Patchett.
Here.
Chair De Silva.
Present. Everyone is present. Madam Secretary, please indicate all committee members are present. Okay, a couple of housekeeping measures. Before we begin, I would like to go over a few housekeeping items. First, I would like to remind everyone to please silence all of your electronic devices, especially cell phones and laptops during the meeting. The committee's meeting materials can be found on the committee's webpage located on the Nevada Legislature's website. You can also sign up for electronic notifications related to any activity on the committee's website. If you wish to testify in person, please sign in at the table by the door and leave a business card. If you do not testify, you may also want to sign in so there is a record of who is interested in a particular topic, and in the event the committee needs to contact you, in case the committee needs to contact you later. When testifying in person, please turn the microphone on, speak directly into the microphone, and turn the microphone off when you are done speaking. We have listeners and viewers in Carson City and online. The meeting is being recorded and is available on the legislature's website. We will have a public comment period at the beginning and end of the meeting. Public comment is limited to 2 minutes per speaker. In addition to testifying in person, members of the public may provide public comment in 4 different ways, all of which are listed on the agenda. You can provide public comment by calling, emailing, or mailing your comments. You can find the phone numbers, email address, and mailing address on the agenda. With that, let's get started. We will start with public comment from those in the physical locations and then move to public comment from anyone who has called in. Also, just a quick note about public comments. We may have to wrap up the initial period before 4:20. We have a senator who needs to, who has another important meeting to make, and we have to take a vote. So we want to make sure that that work session is taking place with full committee participation. So we'll take a public comment at latest till 4:20, and we'll come back to it. So everybody will be able to voice their perspectives on the different matters that we'll be addressing here today in the committee at the end of the meeting, at the second public comment. So with that said, is there anyone in Las Vegas who would like to provide public comment at this time? Yeah, please come forward.
Hello, my name is Shelley Freed. I'm a deaf community advocate and secretary of the Las Vegas Deaf Senior Citizens. I'm here in support of 6C. I want to let you know that we are here and on Zoom. We're happy to answer any of your questions. Thank you so much.
Chair De Silva, Vice Chair Cruz Crawford, and members of the committee. My name is Lisa Kalkas, and I am the Vice President of Public Affairs for Veteran Benefits Guide. But more importantly, I am also a veteran. I wore the uniform, and like millions of my brothers and sisters, I returned to civilian life carrying both the pride of service and the physical and invisible wounds that come with it. Today, I have the privilege of working at VBG alongside over 200 fellow Nevadans who are deeply passionate about serving and supporting our veteran community. Today, you will hear from real people with real stories. You'll hear about honest, hardworking men and women who put their lives on the line for this country, only to run into a wall when they ask for support they earned. When a veteran leaves the service, they aren't looking for a handout, they're looking for the benefits they have earned. But the reality on the ground is that the system is strained to its limits. For example, here in Nevada, the demand for help far outweighs the available resources. You heard it in April directly from the Nevada Department of Veteran Services that our state only has about 24 accredited veteran service officers. That works out to roughly 1 VSO for every 9,000 veterans. Even with dedicated VSOs working tirelessly, those numbers do not add up. The result is long backlogs, confusing paperwork, and months spent in limbo, causing anguish, frustration, and unnecessary stress for veterans already coping with chronic pain, PTSD, or the transition to civilian life. But don't take my word for it. You will hear directly from veterans who found themselves in this exact challenging situation. At VBG, our team is stepping up to help bridge that gap. Veterans deserve options, and they deserve dedicated advocates in their corner to help them gather their evidence and present an honest, accurate claim to the VA. This is what we do at VBG. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair De Silva, Vice Chair Cruz Crawford, and members of the committee. My name is Tierney Roberts. I am a United States Army veteran, a wife, and a mother. My husband is also a veteran. Today, I'm not speaking to you only as an employee of Veteran Benefits Guide. I'm speaking to you as a veteran who knows firsthand what it feels like to fight for your country and then come home and must fight all over again just to receive the benefits you've earned. For years, my husband and I both fought to receive our VA disability benefits. We submitted claims, received denials, and struggled to understand a system that felt incredibly difficult to navigate. My service-connected injuries affected my ability to work. Without the benefits I needed, my family eventually experienced homelessness. We had our children with us. One of the hardest things I remember was seeking assistance through the VA and being told that we essentially had to completely be homeless before certain assistance could be provided to us. Imagine hearing that as a veteran. Imagine serving your country, raising your children, struggling because of injuries connected to the service, and feeling like you must lose everything before somebody can help you. Eventually, the Salvation Army helped our family, and later I attended a veteran stand-down event here in Las Vegas. That event changed my life. While there, I met a recruiter from Veteran Benefits Guide and was offered an opportunity to work for that company. Through my employment, I finally began to understand the VA claims process in a way I never had before. I learned what evidence was needed, how claims were developed, and what a supplemental claim was, and how to properly present the disabilities and evidence that had been there all along. So I submitted it, and after years of denial and struggle, I was finally awarded 100% permanent and total disability. My husband followed shortly after. Within 1 month of each other, two veterans who had once been homeless with their children while fighting for their benefits were finally rated 100% P&T, and that changed our lives. And since then, I've watched similar assistance change the lives of friends, battle buddies, and other veterans who simply did not know how to navigate that complicated process on their own. That is why organizations like VBG are needed. Veterans should absolutely have protections against anyone seeking to exploit them. But protecting veterans should not mean eliminating their ability to choose legitimate, knowledgeable assistance when the existing system has failed them. Because without that assistance, my husband and I could have remained another statistic, another veteran family struggling with homelessness, while benefits we had earned remained out of reach. We fought for this country. That should not have to fight alone to understand the system designed to compensate us for sacrifices that we made. Please protect veterans from exploitation, but also protect our right to choose who helps us fight for the benefits that we earn. Thank you for hearing my story, and thank you for your time.
Good afternoon, Chair De Silva, Vice Chair Cruz Crawford, and members of the committee. My name is Kaisal Roberts. I served in the United States Marine Corps for a little bit over 8 years and completed 3 deployments. When I came home, I quickly realized how difficult it would be without the benefits that I had earned through my service. My service-connected injuries made it difficult to not only find but maintain employment. As a husband and father, struggling to provide for my family took a serious toll on me mentally. My wife is also a veteran, and together we spent years trying to navigate the VA claims process. Filing claims, receiving denials after denials, and struggling financially until our family eventually experienced homelessness. Everything began to change when my wife and I attended the Veteran Stand-Down event, and my wife was hired by Veteran Benefits Guide. Through VBG, we finally began to understand the claims process that had been so confusing and frustrated for years. Eventually, both of us reached 100% P&T. That changed our lives drastically. We went from constantly worrying about finances and our livelihood to finally being able to breathe. We could be present for our children instead of constantly living in survival mode. That's all I have. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair De Silva and Vice Chair Cruz Crawford and the members of the committee. My name is Roger Loesch. I'm a retired United States Air Force combat veteran. Just to echo what my brothers and sisters have said, the Veterans Benefits Guide has been a great help to me. I fought for 8 years to get full benefits, and not knowing the system and just having their help assisted greatly. And in the interest of time, I'll just leave it as that. Just know that they have made a great impact, not only in my life, but for those of my fellow brothers and sisters that are veterans. That's all I have. Thank you.
There we go. Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Roland Cooper. I'm here with my wife, Deborah Cooper. I'm here on behalf of AARP, and we would like to share a recent personal experience regarding the fraudulent use of crypto kiosks in the Vegas Valley. On the afternoon of July 30th, 2026, my wife and I were running errands. Between stops, my wife checked her cell phone and found that what she believed to be an urgent message from Deputy Brian Peterson of the Clark County Sheriff's Office. The message was directed to my wife, Deborah. My wife returned the call and was notified by Deputy Peterson that she had missed a federal jury date. We were both shocked, as we check our mail every day. Deputy Peterson was very professional. He stated that Debbie had two options. She could either go to jail for 3 days or pay a fine of $5,000. My wife was very concerned, so naturally I was concerned. I'm an AARP volunteer and very, very aware of fraud, so this call did give me pause. Deputy Peterson sent Debbie 3 PDF documents to her cell phone with instructions on next steps. During this time, they were monitoring our call, and as we were traveling, we had her cell phone on speakerphone so I could listen to the conversation as well. Debbie did not want to go to jail, so we began to follow the steps to obtain the money, the $5,000 cash, and where to take the money. The documents gave us 6 locations. He then began a conversation with Debbie about crypto and Bitcoin. And as I was traveling to deposit the money, I was puzzled why that would come up. He then began a conversation as to the location and that I am to remain in the car, do not go in. Debbie's to go in by herself. I took one look at the Bitcoin kiosk. I left the car, went in and looked, and saw a kiosk there. I asked the clerk behind the counter, is this kiosk used to pay fines? He said, absolutely not. He had no idea what I was talking about. I came back to the car. I took the phone from my wife and I disconnected the call. My wife has since sent all this information to the FBI. We contacted the Clark County Sheriff's Office to let them know that this fraud outfit is actually using the name of one of their deputies. We have found that this type of fraud is rampant and nationwide. We feel the crypto bill you have before you is very critical to reducing and/or possibly eliminating fraud, as many people are being impacted each day. As a veteran, a constituent, and a concerned citizen, I urge you to move forward with this legislation. Thank you for your time today to share our personal story.
Thank you. And please remember, comments need to be kept to 2 minutes. Thank you. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairman De Silva and members of the committee. My name is Risa Page, R-I-S-A-P-A-G-E. I am a 22-year resident of Las Vegas and have been a volunteer for 6 years with AARP Nevada and nationally with AARP's Fraud Watch Network. I am here in support of banning crypto ATMs. I'm a retired educator who became involved in AARP's Fraud Watch Network volunteer team as a fierce defender, fighting against fraud to safeguard older adults from losing their savings to scams. Often, the criminals build relationships using false hopes, grooming, and even threats requiring victims to invest in crypto and to submit those funds via crypto ATMs. As a trained facilitator of the Fraud Watch Network's peer support group sessions, I am compelled to share with you that I have witnessed one-on-one the heartbreak, trauma, and financial and emotional insecurity which destroys these victims. Again, often requiring them to submit those funds via crypto ATMs. Their experiences range from embarrassment and shame, blocking their ability to reach out for help and report the crime, to being unable to provide their own self-care. They can't sleep, eat, carry on with daily activities. They suffer in ways exactly like any victim of any aftermath of a criminal event. And in the most acute levels, these crime victims experience suicidal ideations. I encourage you to visit aarp.org and search Fraud Wars, where you will find compelling stories of these victims of fraud crimes. In closing, please know, as older adults, we are survivors of all of life's experiences, and we do continue moving forward by relying on our optimism and our wisdom. But also, as older adults, we fear inadequate health coverage and financial insecurity. So please ban crypto ATMs and kiosks so criminals will not be able to traumatize fraud victims of any age in Nevada. Thank you for your time.
Good afternoon, Chairman De Silva and Vice Chair Cruz Crawford. My name is Leo Garcia, and I am a United States Air Force Desert Shield, Desert Storm veteran. I wear multiple hats in the community, but today I'm here as Joe Veteran, sharing my personal experience navigating the VA disability claim process. For nearly 10 plus years, my wife and I struggled to get assistance I needed through traditional veteran service organizations. Despite providing my medical records, DD-214, and other required documents, I experienced delays and frustration. That changed when I found Veterans Benefit Guide, or VBG. VBG provided the guidance and support I needed to move my claim forward efficiently and achieve a positive result. My wife and I understood that there would be fees for their service. We were comfortable paying it because the value and the assistance we received. More recently, I returned to a certified veteran service organization for help with the PACT Act claim. Unfortunately, errors in submitting my information resulted in additional delays. I ultimately returned to VBG for assistance. My experience has taught me one important lesson. Veterans deserve choices. We should protect veterans from bad actors, but we should not eliminate legitimate options that provide veterans with valuable assistance. Instead, we should promote transparency, accountability, education so veterans can make an informed decision. Veterans earn their benefits through service and sacrifice. They should also have the freedom of choice. Who helps them pursue their benefits? Thank you for allowing me to share my experience.
Good afternoon, Chair De Silva, Vice Chair Cruz Crawford, and members of the committee. My name is Montrese Hope. I've called Las Vegas my home for 23 years, and being active in this community has taught me how important it is to take care of people around us. That is one of the reasons VBG's culture and mission means so much to me. When I walked through the doors of VBG 3.5 years ago, I had heard about its dedication to veterans, but I didn't truly understand what made VBG special until I experienced it myself. During my interview, one of the managers started singing "Fighter" by Christina Aguilera. It may sound small, but it lifted my spirits and made me feel valued. I remember thinking, if an interview feels this encouraging, it can only get better from here. And I was right. As an administrative assistant, I'm often at the beginning of a veteran's journey. I've heard firsthand how disabilities have affected their health, families, careers, and quality of life. Those conversations have taught me that trust matters. At VBG, that trust is built through integrity, transparency, respect, and compassion. those aren't just words on a wall. They guide how we serve veterans and support one another. I've learned that success isn't how many veterans we serve, it's how well we serve them. Every interaction matters, every conversation matters, every veteran matters. After 23 years in Las Vegas and 3.5 years of VBG, I'm proud that the values I see in the community are reflected in the work I get to do every day, serving people with care, respect, and compassion. Thank you for your time.
Good afternoon, Chair De Silva, Vice Chair Cruz Crawford, and members of the committee. My name is Stephanie Moore. I joined Veteran Benefits Guide in November of 2019 as the office manager. 4 months later, the world changed. COVID shut everything down. I remember thinking, I'm an office manager with no office to manage. I'm definitely going to lose my job. But that never happened. VBG found a way. VBG gave my family stability during a time filled with uncertainty and fear while never losing focus on the veterans we served. COVID made an already difficult process even harder to navigate. VBG made sure we had the resources to continue helping veterans and connecting them with the assistance they needed. That was when I realized I had found something different. I wanted to work somewhere with purpose. At VBG, I found it. Over the years, I've worked throughout the company and seen our mission from many different perspectives. VBG changed my life and my family's life. I believe in this company so strongly that today my husband, my daughter, and my cousin all work there. What started as a new job in 2019 became something much bigger. It became purpose, and it became a part of my family. So as the conversations continue about the future of companies like VBG in Nevada, I ask that you consider the full impact. Consider the veterans we serve, consider the employees who serve them, and consider the Nevada families whose lives have been changed because of VBG. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair De Silva, Vice Chair Cruz Crawford, and members of the committee. My name is Robert Kay. Working at VBG every day, I've had the honor of helping veterans all throughout this country and many right here in Nevada. While working closely with them, I built relationships with many of them. Last year, I was at MCON and ran into one of the veterans I helped. He lives here in town. And next thing I know, he's walking me around, introducing me to everyone he knows and telling them I'm the person that changed his life. Now his kids have helped with college, and when the day comes he's ready to retire, he has a lot less worry and stress. I was able to help a really good friend of mine as well who lives in Las Vegas. He's been trying to get his back increase for years, or try to do it on his own. Worked with a local VSO, could never get that increase. He came to me and started working with VBG, and he finally is rated properly for his back. These are the moments that remind me why I do what I do. It's not simply navigating a complex system or helping someone receive the benefits they earned. It's about giving veterans and their families a little more security, hope, and peace of mind in the future, moving forward in their future. Knowing the work I can do makes a lasting difference in their lives. I can honestly say that the veterans I've had the privilege of helping have given just as much back to me. Their stories, their sacrifice, and their trust have made it more than just a job. It's made it a purpose. I'm incredibly proud to do what I do, proud to stand alongside those who served our country, and grateful every day for the opportunity to make a difference in the lives of veterans and their families. Thank you.
Chair De Silva, Vice Chair Cruz Crawford, and members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Patrick Holmes. I'm the Senior Director of Marketing and Communications at Veteran Benefits Guide. In my role at VBG, I've had the opportunity to meet hundreds, if not thousands, of veterans from across Nevada and across the country. I hear a lot about their experiences with VA benefits, the challenges they face, the long waits, and the confusing paperwork. When veterans talk about getting help with their claims, I hear something pretty simple. They want the benefits they deserve, and they want the freedom to choose what path works best for them. I couldn't help but notice the stark difference between what I hear from everyday veterans and the rhetoric within political circles. That got me to thinking, what is the actual truth? That's why we hired the Harris Poll, one of the longest running public opinion research firms in the US, known for rigorous, nationally representative survey methodology, to find out. They surveyed 2,000 veterans across the country about their experiences with the benefits process and what they want to see changed. What we heard was clear. 93% of veterans said getting their benefits feels like a full-time job. 84% said the process is too complicated to handle alone. And 81% said navigating their benefits can feel like a second deployment. Those aren't small problems. And the veterans told us they're looking for a better path forward. 94% said veterans should have the right to choose who helps them access their benefits. 94% said they should be able to work with private partners if it helps them get the benefits they deserve. And 80% said private industry partnerships can improve the benefit system. That's a powerful message from veterans themselves. That's why we commissioned this study. I really wanted to listen to veterans and better understand how they feel, not tell them what to think. And what they told us is clear. Veterans want the benefits they deserve. They want a simpler process, and they want the freedom to choose who helps them get there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bryan. Before you begin your public comment, we want to go to the phones real quickly, and then we'll come back here to Las Vegas.
Thank you, Chair. If you would like to provide public comment today and you were listening on the phones or connected to Zoom via the app on the laptop or cell phone, please press *9 or raise hand in the Zoom app to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits 390, you are unmuted and may begin. Caller with the last 3 digits 390, you are unmuted on our end. Please make sure that you are unmuted on yours and you may begin.
Sorry about that. Good afternoon, Chair DeSilva and members of the committee. My name is Tara Webster, and I'm calling on behalf of the Progressive Leadership Alliance of Nevada in support of rent stability for seniors. Solving the housing crisis is going to take a lot more than building new homes. Housing affordability isn't just fundamentally a housing supply issue because supply isn't reaching those who are most vulnerable to displacement, like seniors on fixed incomes or those who have chronic illness and disability. Older renters are the fastest growing group facing homelessness, and more than half of renters who are over 65 are spending a lot of their money on limited income for rent and utilities. Exorbitantly rising rents shouldn't force older adults to move into subpar housing with uninhabitable or deteriorating conditions. This is a current fear that I have for my own disabled mother who's at risk of losing her housing by the end of the year. Her rent has risen from $1,100 to $1,800 in just a few years, and she was just given notice that her rent is going to increase an additional $200 by the end of her lease. When I asked if she had any luck finding a new apartment, she started crying and said that everywhere she's called is $2,200 for rent, and she doesn't know why everything is so expensive. It's unreal how hard my mom is working to stretch a penny just to make ends meet, and given the current cost of housing, she's probably never going to retire. So we hope that you as a committee will support rent stability as it will relieve financial burdens and provide seniors with financial security that they need. It'll also help reduce the rising homelessness crisis amongst older adults in Nevada. Thank you.
Dear colleagues and state leaders, Chris Doss, Clark County, Nevada. The issues that I'm going to bring up to you affects all people represented on your committee. If we continue to lose physicians, psychiatrists, and mental health workers, all the population in Nevada will suffer. Following the latest State of Mental Health in America rankings, which once again placed Nevada 51st, I'm reaching out to highlight practical challenges faced by mental health and primary care providers across our state. This message is intended as a constructive call to action to work alongside Nevada Medicaid and its contractors to address critical workflow issues. Key concepts reported by local providers include communication barriers with vendors. When contacting Gainwell, taxpayers' money going to a third party regarding application status or prior authorizations, providers routinely receive generic scripts directing them elsewhere rather than receiving substantive help. Extended application delays. Applications submitted as far back as May of this year remain pending under a generalized explanation such as peak volume period, end quote, making it difficult for qualified providers to begin serving Medicaid recipients. Provider retention. The primary reason many clinicians and physicians opt out of Medicaid or leave the state entirely is not the reimbursement rate. Medicaid pays well, but the administrative frustration, the lack of direct support from enrollment and authorization process. To lift Nevada from the bottom of national healthcare rankings, state agencies and providers, we must collaborate on transparent, practical solutions. I welcome your response for leadership to discuss how we can partner to improve the vendor accountability, simplify enrollment, and better serve all the members of the community. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair DeSilva, Vice Chair Cruz Crawford, and members of the committee. My name is Ben Innes, that is BENINESS. I'm the Coalition Manager for the Nevada Housing Justice Alliance, statewide coalition of grassroots organizers and community advocates. We stand with tenants in addressing the root causes of our state's housing crisis to keep Nevadans housed and prevent displacement. The coalition wants to thank the committee for their rentability BDR that is being considered today. While there are many ways to improve the current language of what is being currently proposed, it is reassuring to see the legislators in this body take on meaningful action toward our state's housing crisis. To intervene strictly through supply and demand interventions means that these conditions will stagnate at best and be exacerbated at worst, as countless Nevadans will wait decades for slow change that may never come. Without rent stability measures, more and more Nevadans will walk the very narrow tightrope of staying housed, cutting out essentials, facing eviction and displacement again and again. Rent stability can grant relief and protect Nevadans immediately while stabilizing our communities. That is the cornerstone of our state's long-term plans to combat the crisis. Thank you for your efforts today and throughout the interim. We look forward to this body's support throughout the legislative session.
Hello, my name is Logan Caton, and I'm calling today on behalf of the Nevada State Apartment Association to voice our opposition to recommendation A1A on the work session document. We understand concerns about housing affordability for Nevada's seniors. However, we believe this proposal effectively imposes a 5-year rent control on certain senior housing. That leaves landlords on the hook for increases in property taxes, insurance, utilities, maintenance, labor, and other operating costs over 10%. In turn, Nevada seniors can see a decrease in available housing options and decreased quality of those available. Rent control has proven numerous times to be not only ineffective, but harmful to the tenants, especially for the most vulnerable population that this BDR proposal aims to protect. We encourage the legislature to find ways to provide more targeted assistance to seniors in need while still encouraging continued investment in rental properties. We are open to any opportunity to develop sound solutions to address housing availability for all Nevadans. We respectfully oppose the recommendation. Thank you.
Hello, this is Mark Renz. I am the founder and president of Digital Mint. We ran a crypto ATM company for nearly 10 years. We were one of the first enterprise founders. We built and scaled our crypto ATM company to 36 states, to 1,400 locations. I am here to say, based on my experience in working closely with all the founders of the largest crypto ATM companies for a full ban There is no use case for crypto ATMs based on all our work with law enforcement and a lot of several different blockchain forensics organizations and working directly with customers. We found there's been no use case. At one point, when we raised our fraud guards up to as high as we possibly could, interviewing every customer, we ended up banning 100% of our customers that did over $1,000. The amount of fraud victimization that has happened within the industry has been unprecedented. And the industry, based on our experience and the leaders of it, know that it's all fraud. But they've built such a large enterprise and there's too many stakeholders involved that it's impossible for them to support anything other than just the grift that they've been pushing thus far. So in conclusion, based on our experience, we recommend a full ban on all crypto ATMs. And one thing I would ask the committee is to have any of the crypto ATMs that are trying to push or staying relevant in your state to prove with good documentation who these customers are, but have them come out and be part of a testimony. The reason they won't do that is because they won't exist. They'll tell you every story possible as to why they can't to protect their privacy, but the reality is they do not exist. Thank you for your time.
If you have recently joined us and would like to provide public comment and have yet to speak, please press *9 or raise hand in the Zoom app to take your place in the queue.
Good morning, Chair. Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. This is Dora Martinez with the Nevada Disability Peer Action Coalition. Just want to thank you all for, I saw that you guys set the work session item C, and I want to thank you for doing that. We are looking forward to vote this coming general election, and we hope to have all accessible voting for people who are blind, low vision, and American Sign Language users. So we appreciate that you have this on the item, and thank you. Bye.
There are no other callers wishing to provide public comment at this time.
Thank you. So just to lay out what's going to happen here, we're going to take a pause in public comment. We're going to, after the three gentlemen who are here in Las Vegas will give their public comments, we're going to have a work session. We're going to vote the BDR requests out, and then we're going to come back. But I also want to let you know that there's a second public comment too at the end of the hearing today. So we'll get through public comment, and just know that there'll be a second public comment at the end of today's meeting as well. So we'll get through these three individuals here, and then we'll go to our work session document and come back to public comment. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairman De Silva, Vice Chair Cruz Crawford, and to all of our community. I am Luke Bielczak, B-I-A-L-C-Z-A-K. I am a combat veteran, 100% total permanent, retired, and also the state senior vice commander for the state of Nevada Veterans of Foreign Wars. I am here to speak on behalf of the Veterans of Foreign Wars against Veterans Benefit Guide. And for the record, I am not paid to be here or within my position within the VFW. Veterans Benefit Guide is a predatory business that targets veterans. They have entered our community and spread lies about their mission, claiming they want to be VA accredited and they are fair to veterans. I will tell you right now that is untrue. VA accredited agents are limited to what they could charge for filing claims and appeals and reimbursements, not for profit. Federal Law 38 USC 5901 states only accredited VA individuals may assist with claims. Nevada state law, our very own NRS 417.017 states every person or company assisting with veteran claims must meet two requirements: be certified by the Nevada Department of Veteran Services, and be officially recognized by the U.S. Department of Affairs. This is to protect our veterans. If you do not meet these requirements, you are legally barred from submitting or assisting with claims. Doing all the paperwork and letting the veteran hit send is the same as impersonating one of these officers. States like California, New Jersey, New York, Maine, and Colorado have already banned groups like Veterans Benefit Guide from operating in their states. I will end with this. If you search the following terms in the search bar: Veteran Assistance Nevada, Nevada Veterans Claims, Nevada Veterans, VA Claims Las Vegas Veterans Help, Veterans Benefit Guide is on top of the search every time. You cannot say you're trying to help veterans while you're suppressing the free services out there with money. Grojo has estimated that Veterans Benefit Guide currently has a revenue of $24.6 million a year. That is all out of veteran pockets. Nevada is a veteran state. Las Vegas is a veteran city. It is our responsibility to make sure our service members are taken care of with only legal and proper services. Thank you for your time.
My name is Ross Bryant. I'm a retired Army veteran. In the Army, I was known for two things. I was a famous tank commander during the Cold War, and I was known for my snoring. I used to sleep outside as a commander so my troops could sleep. When I retired from the Army, I processed out of Fort Nellis, Nellis Air Force Base, and I did not have a sleep study because never even heard about it. My sleep apnea got so bad, the year after I retired, I was falling asleep at stop signs at meetings and had trouble sleeping all night long. I got tested and had the highest level of sleep apnea. I put in my claim within the 1 year and it was denied. So I am a VFW member, American Legion member, and I put in 3 appeals and got denied. And it wasn't until a friend of mine who was a VA claims person at the VA told me, go get some professional help. You need a strong nexus letter. And I was very skeptical, and I went to Veterans Benefit Guide. And they were upfront with everything, including the fees. They were upfront with everything on what I needed to do. And they connected me with a doctor who had a sleep center for 45 years as a Navy vet in San Diego. And after 16 years, my claim was approved. So all the rules and regulations and who can do what, I have no idea. What I do know is 9,000 people needing help with claims that are complicated. People just give up. So whatever law has to change to make sure all the resources are available. We are all adults. We can choose how to get a claim done. And then if you have to pay for one, like my very complicated appeal, I leave that up to a veteran. Thank you very much.
Member of the public. My name is In Young Oh. I'm honored to represent the Korean Vietnam War Veterans Association of Nevada. I'm before you today to address an issue of fairness, recognition, and moral responsibility. During the Vietnam War, hundreds of thousands of soldiers from the Republic of Korea Armed Force fought alongside United States forces as important allied partners. They shared the battlefield, faced the same enemy, risking their lives and sacrificed in the same cause, the defense of the freedom. Some of these veterans later chose the United States and Nevada states as their home. They have contributed to our communities, raised families here, and lived as proud Americans. However, under the current Nevada law, these individuals are not recognized as veterans. This is the gap we seek to address. The registration we are proposing would recognize Nevada residents who are naturalized U.S. citizens and who served in the Republic of Korea Armed Forces during the Vietnam War as veterans for the purpose of state-level recognition and benefit. This proposal is both reasonable and responsible. First, the fiscal impact is minimal. The number of eligible individuals is very limited. The scope of recognition can be clearly defined within existing state programs. Second, this measure aligns with the action already taken in other states, demonstrating that such recognition is both feasible and appropriate. Most importantly, this is about doing what is right. This man stood shoulder to shoulder with American soldiers in a time of war. They answered the call of duty as allies and later reaffirmed their commitment by becoming citizens of this country. Time is of the essence. These veterans are now in their later years and face declining health. The opportunity to honor them should not be delayed. The bill draft has been prepared and is ready for your review and consideration. On behalf of Korean Vietnam War Veterans Association of Nevada, I respectfully ask for your leadership and support in advancing this registration. Let Nevada stand for fairness, recognition, and honor and respect. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. At this time, we're going to go out of order on the agenda. We're going to move to agenda item 6, which is the work session, and we'll come back to public comment. So we will begin the work session. Members, you should have the work session document, and it is posted on the committee's meeting page. The purpose of the work session is for the committee to decide which legislative measures, if any, it will request for the 2027 session of the legislature. Staff has assisted in preparing a work session document to help guide us through the work session. The document contains a combination of recommendations based upon testimony heard by this committee throughout the interim and recommendations from stakeholders and committee members. The recommendations outlined in the document are not necessarily set in stone. If the committee is so inclined, recommendations may be amended prior to the vote. Staff will guide us through the document, and there will be a discussion period for each item the committee will consider individually. Then, if members are so inclined, I will accept a motion to approve that item. And I just also want to reiterate here that these aren't laws that we're enacting today. We're just asking for a BDR to be developed. And with that said, Mr. Melgarejo will walk us through the document.
Thank you, Chair De Silva. For the record, Cesar Melgarejo, Senior Principal Policy Analyst with the Research Division of the Legislative Council Bureau and your Committee Policy Analyst. As nonpartisan staff of the Legislative Council Bureau, I can neither advocate for nor against any of the measures that come before this committee. As the chair noted, these items and the work session document are up for discussion. And there's a reminder to the committee, you can request a total of drafting of 6 bills or resolutions. You can send letters or place a position statement in the final report to address a specific topic. There is no limitation in the number of letters or position statements the committee may adopt. And Chair, the first recommendation on the work session document is a proposal to assist senior citizens. Recommendation A1 specifically requests the drafting of a bill concerning rent increases for certain older tenants. Specifically, the proposal will prohibit a landlord for a period of 5 years from renewing a rental agreement or entering into a new rental agreement with an existing tenant who is 62 years of age or older if the agreement will increase the tenant's rent by more than 10% of the rent in effect on June 30th, 2027. And Chair, that concludes recommendation A1.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the committee? Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve agenda item A1.
Thank you. Is there a second from Senator Doñate? Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We have one nay. Thank you. The motion carries. We'll move on to our next work session item.
Thank you, Chair. For the record, Cesar Melgarejo, Committee Policy Analyst. Recommendation A2 requests the drafting of a bill to appropriate $330,000 in state general funds to support and expand anti-hunger programs for seniors and veterans. And Chair, that concludes recommendation A2.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the committee? Is there a motion?
Motion to approve agenda item 2A.
There is a motion that has been seconded by Senator Onyate. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. We'll move on to our next item.
Thank you, Chair. For the record, Cesar Margarejo, Community Policy Analyst. The recommendation A3 requests the drafting of a bill to prohibit virtual currency kiosks and cashier facilitated cryptocurrency exchange transactions in Nevada. The proposal would make it a violation and a deceptive trade practice and authorize civil penalties, injunctive relief, forfeiture of kiosks and related equipment, and recovery of fees collected from consumers during a period of violation. Chair, that concludes the recommendation for A3.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the committee? Senator Onyate.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Given that I did not serve on this committee during the interim, I wanted to just issue a quick statement on this proposal. My vote today is neither in support or against the bill. It is just a procedural motion just to begin the bill drafting process. So I just want to make that clarification.
Thank you, Senator. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve agenda item 3A.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second? Second from Senator Onyate. Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. Move on to our next item on the work session document.
Thank you, Chair. For the record, Cesar Margarejo, Community Policy Analyst. Our next item is under Support Services for Veterans. Recommendation B4 contains two components concerning support for veterans and their families. The first is the BDR would expand the free annual state parks permit program to include certain family members of persons killed in the line of duty while serving on active duty in the United States Armed Forces. Second component is the recommendation would require the Division of Human Resource and Management to employ a veterans coordinator to oversee a veteran hiring program, peer mentor program, and related recruitment and retention initiatives for veterans and spouses of veterans or service members. The state parks component and the veteran coordinator component were proposals included in Assembly Bill 145 of the 2025 session. And Chair, that concludes recommendation B4.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the committee? Is there a motion?
Motion to approve item BA. Item 4A.
We have a motion. Is there a second? Second from Senator Onyate. Discussion?
B4. Do I just fix it? Or does he have to do it? Okay. Correction, motion to approve item 4A and B.
Thank you, Senator. Is there a second? Thank you, Assembly Member. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll move on to our next work session item.
Thank you, Chair. For the record, Cesar Margarejo, Community Policy Analyst. Recommendation B5 requests the drafting of a bill to establish the Green Zone Foundation as an independent Nevada nonprofit corporation recognized as a tax exempt under Section 501c3 of the Internal Revenue Code. Proposal would also designate the Green Zone Foundation as the official charitable partner of the Nevada Department of Veteran Services. And Chair, that concludes the recommendation for B5.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the committee? Is there a motion?
Motion to approve agenda item 5A.
We have a motion. Is there a second? Second from Senator Onyate. Discussion? Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll move on to our next agenda item. I'm sorry, work session item.
Thank you, Chair. For the record, Cesar Magureo, Community Policy Analyst. Our next work session item is concerning access and communication to individuals who are deaf and deaf blind, deaf plus, or hard of hearing. And the request is the drafting of a bill to improve access to these individuals. And the recommendation contains 4 individual components. The recommendations are to require certain healthcare intake forms to include American Sign Language as a preferred language option, expand cultural competency training requirements for medical facilities, require the Nevada Health Authority to publish a list of assisted living facilities and senior living communities offering specialized services, and allow an authorized third party to file certain complaints on behalf of an affected person who is unable or unwilling to do so. And sure, that concludes the recommendations for C6 and the recommendations in the work session document.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the committee? Second. Oh, that's right. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve agenda item 6A, B, C, and D.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second? Second from Senator Donate. Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. Okay, at this time, we'll be going back to a public comment. And just to reiterate, even though we voted on the BDR requests, these are just requests to develop BDRs. So we do want to hear everybody's perspective on the work session votes that we took today. And we will be, again, opening up public comment and then having the meeting, and then we'll be coming back to a public comment at the end of this meeting as well. Just wanted to reiterate that. Thank you. So with that said, please, you may approach the dais.
Am I going first? Okay. Good afternoon, Mr. Silva, Committee Silva, Ms. Cruz, Crawford, and committee. I am the president of the AUSA Association United States Army, and VBG is a community partner of ours. I'm here to tell you that VBG has done an excellent job in supporting the community and veterans here in our in Southern Nevada. We're pleased to be partners with them. They do everything they can for veterans at our events and everything else they can do for us. I'm pleased to thank all the veterans here that are here with us today, and I just thank them all too. So thank you.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Mr. De Silva and members of Congress, and everyone here today for giving me the opportunity to speak. My name is Jeremy Montiel. I'm a disabled combat veteran, a former VA employee, and the founder and CEO of Semper Fi Medical Supplies, a service disabled veteran-owned business. I'm here because I have seen the problems at the Las Vegas VA from 3 different perspectives. As a veteran trying to receive care, as a former VA employee who understands how these perspectives are supposed to work, and as a veteran-owned business trying to provide medical equipment to other veterans. One of the most concerning issues we're experiencing involves DME orders written by VA community care providers. We have seen providers prescribe specific red light therapy units based on their assessment of veteran needs, only for those orders to be changed within the VA to a different, significantly less expensive setup. My concern is simple. Who is making these changes? What clinical or administrative authority are they relying on? Why isn't the ordering community care provider being included in this decision? We're also seeing DME requests simply disappear after they are submitted to the Las Vegas VA. Providers fax requests, veterans wait, and weeks later we are told the request cannot be located or is never uploaded into the veteran's medical record. The provider then has to resend it, sometimes multiple times. I know firsthand because I am one of those veterans. I've personally had difficulty getting my own DME request processed despite repeated submission and follow-up. I have tried to resolve these issues through the proper channels. I have contacted multiple members of VA leadership through emails and phone calls. In many instances, I have received no response, or I have been directed from one department to another without anyone taking ownership of the underlying problem. As a former VA employee, I understand these mistakes happen, but when the problems repeatedly affect multiple veterans and providers, and leadership cannot identify who is accountable for fixing them, that becomes a systemic accountability problem. And there is another consequence. As a small disabled veteran-owned small business, Semper Medical Supplies invests significant capital to make these devices available to veterans. When orders disappear or change or are not processed correctly, veterans wait longer for care, and our company can experience delayed or incorrect payments. I'm not asking Congress to favor Semper Medical Supplies or any particular vendor. I'm asking for transparency, accountability, and a process that puts the veterans first. I respectfully ask your office to help determine who is responsible for receiving and processing community care DME requests at the Las Vegas VA, why properly submitted orders are going missing, under what authority prescribed orders is being changed, and what safeguards can be implemented so this stops happening. Veterans should not have to fight the system to receive equipment their providers believe they need. Community care providers should have confidence that their orders will actually reach the appropriate VA department. And veteran-owned businesses serving those veterans should be able to expect a fair, transparent, and accountable procurement and payment process. We can do better for Nevada's veterans. I'm asking for your help, making sure that we do. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair De Silva, Senator Cruz Crawford. Please forgive me, I don't have my glasses on, and the rest of the assembly. I'm here today. My name is Dante Burress. I'm here today for two Marine Corps veterans. One happened to be myself. And one of the concerns I have is it's a concern of healthcare in the state of Nevada. 7 years ago, I received word that I had a very rare tumor called amyloblastoma. As a result of that, I have to have special treatment to make sure that that tumor does not return. If I do that, the problem is no maxillofacial surgeons in the state of Nevada can see that. So therefore, I have to fly back to Dallas, Texas, every 6 months to get these special screenings to make sure that the tumor will not come back. My other concern is, because of that, if I was to get healthcare out here due to VA, I would have to go as far as Laughlin or Mesquite, Maupa. But here's the problem. It is a year or two long process to make sure that I would get the proper procedure. So therefore, I have to fly every 3 to 6 months, 1,222 miles from Vegas to Dallas to make sure that I get that proper procedure. The problem is, I believe that that is a story for other veterans that are not here that have told me those stories. The second concern is for my other veteran, who happens to be my father, who is 90 years old in the state of Nevada, and he has full-blown Alzheimer's. The concern about that is we do not get that kind of assistance with the healthcare system. So he goes from one facility to the next facility, to the point where now he's in between facilities and we're not receiving that treatment. He is 0%. He has he doesn't have any percentage. And we've been fighting for this for over 40 years here in this state so that he can at least get some help if he gets 30% or higher to assist him with some of his concerns. Now that he's at that age of 90, it seems like our healthcare system here is just defaulting to pushing him every 6 months, every 6 months, and every 6 months, where in reality is he doesn't have those 6 months. So I'm just here to share that kind of information and to share that, to give that attention to you all so that we know in the future that a lot of people that are really fighting for veterans here, I myself am the veteran, that I have to leave this state to get help from another state for my assistance, and knowing that my father is just rotting in some of these facilities, not getting the help, yet he had fought for this country. And if you ever look at his DD 214, he is not even recognized as color, he's recognized as a Negroid. And also he was busted down from an E4 to an E0 just because in 1955 to 1959. These are stories that we need to be made aware of before we make these decisions, that they are not just affecting other veterans, but they're veterans that have fought for this country since 1950 and above. Thank you.
Okay, seeing none here in Las Vegas, we'll go to Carson City. Is there any public comment in Carson City?
Mr. Chairman, my name is John McLamry. I'm a retired Senior Deputy Attorney General for the Nevada Bureau of Consumer Protection. I'm currently a volunteer for the AARP Fraud Watch Network, and I take consumer calls. I appreciate the committee's vote on this BDR regarding the prohibition of these kiosks, these Bitcoin kiosks. One of the things I do for the AARP is I take consumer calls, and I have to listen to people's stories who've lost thousands, to the scammers that go through this process to get the people to put money in these kiosks. There's no way to recover the money. The kiosk owners don't care. They're making their profit. There needs to be a stop to this. And I appreciate the fact that this committee is moving on to get a BDR on that. The only other thing that I recommend is that there be a private cause of action in the bill itself. Currently, the only entity with any standing to bring in action is the Attorney General's office. Not even the Consumer Affairs Division can take an action. And the last 4 years since I've been out of that office, the AG has seemed to run away from individual complaints. And so if the bill were to go through with the limited authority of the Attorney General to bring in action, they may not do anything, and away we go. By putting the private cause of action in there, there are remedies in the provisions of NRS Chapter 598, which provide triple damages to a private person, $10,000 or $20,000 additional damages for elderly and disabled persons. That private cause of action is going to be where the rubber meets the road on this. So I really encourage that to be added to the bill. Thank you.
Do I need to be in the middle?
No.
Switch chairs. Nope, we're good. Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Donna Klontz, spelled Clontz. I'm a retired attorney and also a volunteer for AARP Nevada, and have led many community groups for senior services in Washoe County for the past 20 years. The three items on your agenda today for your work session, we thank you all for taking the time to add them to your list and for passing all three of those today. The cryptocurrency ATM ban is really important for our state because of all the reasons that you heard from the various folks who testified, in that all of the stats from all other states that have had these things and have dealt with them at their legislatures have found that they're basically being used to defraud people from out of thousands and thousands of dollars. And most of those victims are senior citizens in our state as well as these other states. So we have over 100 of these machines in Washoe County. There are probably triple that in Carson. So it's really an important issue to follow through on. The other two items about rent protection for tenants 62 and older are also important. So many of our seniors are seeing their rents raised so high that they can't afford them with their Social Security and their retirement benefits, and they're forced to choose between paying their rent and having medicine or having food. And your last one about food insecurity. We all see the information online and on television about the fact that our kids, about 1 out of 5 or 1 out of 6, are going hungry. The same number is true for our seniors. It is really a terrible situation for all of us. And so any help we can give to our food banks through the state of Nevada would be welcome and needed and life-saving. Thank you for your time.
Chair De Silva, Vice Chair Cruz Crawford, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Larry Daly. First, I'd like to thank our veterans for taking the risk of losing their lives to defend our civil rights. Unfortunately, I'm here to report that the Aging and Disability Services Division appears to be taking away the rights that our veterans so proudly defended. ADSD is handing this 3-page policy transmittal to its disabled clients. It says that when a person with disabilities or their representative publicly defames the ADSD, the person with disabilities services, state services may be terminated. The policy doesn't define what ADSD considers to be defamation. This policy appears to violate the First Amendment and the Americans with Disability Act. It chills civic responsibility. I can't imagine how our veterans that have stood up so well today would feel if they were told that speaking against the Veterans Administration could cause them to lose their services. But we're telling this to people, many of whom have developmental and cognitive disabilities and can't even understand this document. I've had 2 classes in communication law. I'm not a lawyer, but I'm afraid to speak to you today. Will my family member lose their services because ADSD thinks speaking to you is public defamation? This policy does not make exceptions for people with disabilities or their advocates protesting that their rights are being violated or they are being perhaps illegally coerced. It's great that the veterans have the people who had the courage to stand up for them, as we've seen today. Adults with special needs are much more alone. We don't have those types of organizations behind us. Our community feels forgotten and afraid. Disability oversight right now relies on people with disabilities filing complaints that are sophisticated enough to trigger a federal investigation. And we all know how that's going right now, right? This is not fair to people with developmental disabilities. It's great to have laws, but if the laws have no teeth, what good are they? Please help. ADSD needs more oversight. Please provide it. People should never need to forfeit their civil rights to obtain government services in this country. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon to Chairman De Silva and Vice Chair Cruz Crawford and the other committee members. I'm here today just to express our appreciation for the passage of all 3 of the 3 proposals to assist seniors in our state. This is sometimes an area that doesn't always make the big headlines, but it is an important group of people as they're very vulnerable. I myself have had the pleasure of working at one of the food pantries in this area in Reno, and I know firsthand how important it is for these people to have the little bit of help that they get. And then under the kiosks and for the cryptocurrencies, I understand that according to the FBI, it shows that 76% of the nearly $400 million that were lost in 2025 through the crypto ATMs were directed toward those of 60 and above. So again, we appreciate your efforts today. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair DeSilva, Vice Chair Cruz Crawford, and committee members. My name is Marcy Cooper-Smith. I'm here today to thank you for to make a motion to go forward with drafting a bill in support of prohibiting the crypto ATMs in Nevada. Please know that these are and can be detrimental to the well-being and the financial security of seniors. So this is why it was very important that this is moving forward. I'm also here in support of requesting the drafting of a bill to prohibit landlords from increasing rent more than 10% for those 62 years and older. Please consider that this is such a crucial issue for those seniors who are retired and living on a fixed income. And it is so important that you've passed this to move along because this discussion needs to be continued. I would just like you to keep in mind that those of us already paying $1,500 a month rent, $2,000 a month rent, if you're giving us up to 10% increase on those amounts, that's a pretty good increase that we're still getting hit with. So please just keep that in mind that we are on fixed incomes. Once we take out of our 401ks or we take out of our pensions, we don't have jobs, that money's gone. So this is very, very crucial to those seniors living on a retired fixed income. And I would just like to thank you for your support of the senior community and representing us. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. That concludes our initial public comment. Remember, we will have public comment at the end of this committee meeting as well. At this time, we'll move to agenda item 3, approval of the minutes for the meetings on February 23rd, March 30th, and April 20th of 2026. Members of the committee, are there any questions regarding the minutes? Okay, I will accept a motion to approve the minutes from the committee from our 3 previous meetings. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the minutes from the 3 previous meetings.
Is there a second? Second from Senator Rogich. Discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. Okay, next we'll move on to agenda item 4, presentation on the stigma surrounding military sexual trauma and strategies for supporting survivors. Our presenters are former Senator Pat Spearman and Renee Dickerson, PhD, founder and chief executive officer at Victory Place. And if the senator is ready to present, she can go ahead and begin.
I'm still reeling from the testimony about loss of benefits. Good afternoon, Chair DeSilva and Vice Chair Cruz Crawford. For the record, I'm former State Senator Pat Spearman, and for 12 years I represented Senate District 1 in Clark County. I'm also an ordained minister, retired lieutenant colonel, and served almost 30 years in the U.S. Army. I'm here today asking for a resolution to Congress declaring military sexual trauma as a presumptive illness. I'm pleased to be joined by Dr. Renee Dickerson, former U.S. Army Sergeant, Kamala Lopez, the founder and executive director of Equal Means Equal, Sergeant First Class retired Dixie Thompson, and Reverend Dr. Maureen Mo Burns, former U.S. Army Drill Sergeant. Some of you may remember the late Senator Woodhouse testifying with me on Senate Bill 268 in 2015 session. The bill was important legislation to help veterans who were the victims of military sexual trauma get the necessary psychological treatment as one of the alternatives to going to jail. This is an issue that I care deeply about. I would like to take a few minutes to give some background. The U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs website defines military sexual trauma as sexual assault or repeated threatening sexual harassment that occurred while the person was in the military. It also includes sexual activity where someone is involved against his or her will, Other experiences that fall into that category of military sexual trauma include unwanted sexual touching or grabbing, threatening, offensive remarks about a person's body, sexual activities, and or threatening or unwelcome sexual advances. Both men and women can experience military sexual trauma during their service. In 2017, the bill that was passed in 2015 was set to sunset. But thanks to the chair of this committee, Senator Parks at that time, that sunsetting was eliminated. And so now we are here trying to go a step further. And I'm gonna have to tell you that in the 20 years that I have been retired, I don't know that I have met one woman veteran who has not experienced some type of unwanted sexual advances. I've also spoken to 2 gentlemen. The unfortunate part is that for men who receive unwanted sexual advances or sexual harassment or have military sexual trauma, most of them do not want to come forward. For them, it is an embarrassing. So here's what we're requesting. In accordance with Senate Bill 137, to ensure that the Director of the State's Department of Veterans Services submit on or before August 1st of each year a report to the Interim Finance Committee detailing the expenditures made from the account to assist veterans who have suffered sexual trauma. Send a resolution to Congress to make MST a presumptive illness. The U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs uses presumptive conditions to give fast help to former service members. If a veteran served in a certain place or at a specific time, certain illnesses are legally assumed to come from that service, such as Agent Orange during the Vietnam War. During the Biden administration, we also had access to the PACT Act, respiratory issues and various concerns linked to airborne hazards of the Gulf War and post-9/11 Veterans Act. And I'm here today to tell you that I am one of the people who has experienced respiratory illness as a result of my service at the Pentagon. Chronic diseases like arthritis or diabetes that show up within 1 year. I want to take a few minutes just to tell you my story. In 1986, I was assigned to the 193rd Infantry Brigade. A few days after I assigned into the brigade, the commanding officer, a full colonel, and I was a captain at the time, a full colonel said to me, Captain, I need to talk to you. I said, okay, sir, I'll get my tablet. He said, no, I'll call you at another time. So about 3 weeks after that, his secretary called and said, the commander wants to see you. I grabbed my tablet and walked to his office and reported and said, sir, Captain Spearman reporting as ordered. He said, stand at ease, Captain. He then put his hands under the desk and began to masturbate in front of me. And I want to tell you, I almost passed out. I told him I didn't know what that meant. He wanted to bang my bones. I said, I don't know what that means. He said, come on, we're both adults. You know what that means. While he gyrated and made all types of sexual noises and masturbating under the desk. And it was only through the help of God that I just didn't pass out right there, because I saw what was happening and couldn't believe my eyes that this is happening to me. And I'd heard it from several other women in the military. After he finished that, he put his hands on top of the desk and started rubbing that crap all over his hands, telling me, I know you really want to be on the fast track, so I can be very good to your career. The inference is, I can also destroy your career. He said, well, dismiss, Captain. I went back to my went back to my office cubicle, and I'm sorry, every time I tell this story, I can feel what it felt like then. I got back to my office cubicle, and my office mate said, "Pat, what's wrong with you? You look horrible." I said, "Oh, I must have eaten something bad for lunch." She said, "I'm going back to my hotel and maybe just crash for a minute." That Saturday, this happened on a Wednesday, and that Saturday, someone knocked at my door, and I was going to say, "Who is it?" But I didn't. I looked out the peephole, and there was my commander standing in civilian clothes, banging on the door. "Captain Spearman, open the door. Captain Spearman, open the door." I didn't say anything. About 20 minutes later, the housekeeper, I heard her jingling the keys, getting ready to come into the room. I stepped into the shower and closed the curtain. And she came in and she was singing, and she came into the bathroom and she pulled the curtain back from the shower. And she was getting ready to scream, and I said, my Spanish may not be as good as it was then, but I said, "Cierra la puerta, por favor." She said, "No, no, no." And I said, "Please close the door." I said, "Please close the door." She closed the door, and I described my commander, who was still standing out there in the hallway. And I said, "He's still there?" She said, "See, you want me?" I said, "No, no, no, no." I said, "Close the door." He went from one side of the hallway to the other side of the hallway. And when she finished with my room, she went down towards the elevator, and she said, "He's standing at the elevator now." And I said, "Okay, thank you." When she got ready to get off work, she came and knocked on the door, and she said, come with me." And she took me down she took me down the service elevator and let me out on the dock that was right by the dumpster. I got into my car and drove as fast as I could over to a friend's house who we'd been stationed together at Fort Hood. And I told him what happened. His wife heard it, and she said, "I know you getting ready to tell somebody. You gonna report him?" I said, "No." She said, "What?" And her husband said, "She can't report it." And she said, "What are you talking about?" with some other expletives. He said, "If she reports it, her career is over." And I said, "Yeah." That was 1986. I never said anything to anybody about what happened to me until 2000, once I had my 20 years in and I'd been promoted to lieutenant colonel. But what I did do during that time is I watched, because you always knew the perverts. I watched to make sure those perverts, whoever they were watching, I got close to. And I wanted to make sure they had somebody to come and talk to if something happened. And when something happened, I always pulled out my ordained minister cap and put it on. And most of the places where I was assigned, I worked very closely with the chaplain. So my way of protecting them was through ministry. I never should have had to do that. Just this past year, I had a friend of mine who was in advanced stages of dementia. And I was her POA. I went to see her one day, and she and her husband were members of my church when I pastored in Las Vegas. I went to see her, and she was falling asleep, and I said, "Mother Peggy, I'm going to be here. Go on and go to sleep." So she turned over towards the wall, and about 12 minutes later, she turned back over towards me, and she started screaming, "Get out of here, get out of here." And I said, "Mother Peggy, get out of here. I don't want to do that. I told you I don't like it. Leave me alone." And I said, Mother Peggy. I said, it's Pastor. And she looked at me, she said, "Oh, it's Pastor." Now, my experience as a pastoral counselor and having worked with rape victims and people who have been victims of childhood assault, that told me something had happened to her. I submitted the paperwork to get her disability increased due to MST. The board that reviewed it said, "Well, we need to talk to her." I said, "She is in advanced stages of dementia." They called her, and she was there and they were asking her questions and she was talking about everything else. And they said, well, we can't determine this because she can't answer our questions. I said, she is in the advanced stages of dementia. Hello. But she served during the Vietnam War and she served on a ship. So I'm sure that that happened to her. Now I'll turn it over to Dr. Renee Dickerson, who will give us some insights about what this is and how many are affected. And I would invite you to stay tuned because you're also going to hear from someone who has a very, very, very sorrowful ending to this military sexual trauma. Dr. Dickerson.
Good evening, ma'am, and thank you for inviting me to speak. And thank you for your testimony. What you have stated, what you have described, and we have all visually experienced is the lived experience of military sexual trauma, because it does not go away. After the hidden battle of military sexual trauma, survivors continue to live with the fear, the shame, self-blame, silence, loss of identity, and distrust of institutions. In my book, Unveiling the True Self, I discuss how the internal struggles are emotional scars that can remain long after the external battle is over. Veterans may appear strong, successful, independent, and highly functional, but inside they're suffering and struggling internally. So what we see on the outside is the mask of the survivor. The appearance of strength should never be mistaken for the absence of suffering. I am also an Air Force veteran, and when I made the decision to serve like many other women, I believe deeply in duty, honor, service, leadership, and belonging. Military sexual trauma is an epidemic in the military. And the military should be a trusted institution. Survivors experience annihilation anxiety, described as an overwhelming fear, psychological destruction, the feeling that one's sense of self, safety, identity, and existence is disappearing due to the trauma. When a survivor experiences military sexual trauma, there's a loss of fellow service members. So who can you tell? Who can you trust? There's oftentimes repeated sexual harassment or sexual assault. The retaliation for reporting, the common portrayal, there's a disruption in the career trajectory, and the institutional failure to protect them. The survivor may experience not only the original sexual trauma, but a second injury, which is called institutional betrayal. So let me walk you through what a common pattern of military sexual trauma, sexual assault, sexual harassment may occur. Some survivors report, most do not. The report is often minimized or questioned. Survivors become isolated, and their military career is negatively impacted. There is a deterioration of their mental health, of their emotional health. The survivor becomes viewed as a problem. The alleged offender may remain in their position. And oftentimes this survivor leaves the military. And there's a sense of loss of what they joined the military to experience. And then there's the psychological consequences that last for years, which are post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, anxiety, emotional numbness, isolation, difficulty forming and maintaining relationships, substance misuse, physical and health problems, occupational difficulties. Then there's a reluctance to seek treatment, or oftentimes they're not aware that there's treatment available through the Department of Veteran Affairs. And long after the trauma, survivors live with trauma anniversaries and reminders that trigger the psychological effects. And please keep in mind, just like with everything else, when a survivor experiences military sexual trauma, everything is working, all the senses, sight, hearing, smell, taste, touch, even in their intuition, their internal awareness, everything is working and everything is affected. And there's the physical responses, increased heart rate, headaches, gastrointestinal challenges, sleep disturbances, startle, reflect, emotional responses, fear, terror, anxiety, panic attacks, helplessness, anger, irritability. On a mental level, there's concentration and memory challenges, intrusive thoughts and flashbacks, negative belief about themselves, and even a negative belief about their decision to serve. And then there is the behavioral responses, avoiding places and people or situations that serve as a reminder of the trauma they've experienced. Then there's the social withdrawal and isolation, the hypervigilance, the substance misuse, the emotional outburst, coping by overworking or gambling or other productive ways of coping. And then there's the self-neglect and difficulty maintaining those important relationships. Please understand the body remembers what the mind struggles to forget. And even though on the conscious level, survivors struggle to forget the trauma, the body will remind them during trauma anniversaries, during triggers. The fear, the guilt, the shame, all of those affect their everyday life. There is a new series, I believe it's on Disney, it's curious, and there's a scene that the star of the series is in the room at work with her perpetrator. And she's a first responder, an FBI agent. And they're working a serial killer case. But the job is still very important. And so she's in the same room with the person who has violated her. She's in the same room with the people she's reported the offense to, but she still had to do her job. And that's what it looks like in the military, because most people do not report. They go to work the next day and perform their job. because we all raised our hand to serve and protect and adhere to the Constitution and the UMCJ. So this military trauma is alive and very, very current in today's military, even though we did not have a name for it until 1992 after Tailhook. And there's been a very slow improvement in keeping service members safe and providing a safe avenue for them to report. But it's very difficult to report because of the history of retaliation, and people have lost their jobs or have lost their careers. And for those who have served in the military, it ruins their lives depending on the type of discharge. And that is institutional betrayal. So survivors need trauma-informed reporting processes, meaningful protection from retaliation, independent and harsh investigations. Their documentation need to be saved across command and duty stations, have access to mental health and medical treatment, should be assistance in reviewing questionable administrative separations and discharge characterizations. And they should receive benefits. And there should be psychoeducational counseling for families to help them understand what post-traumatic stress does to the veteran and how it affects the family. Equally important, it's important that we remember those who have been killed as a result of military sexual trauma. Every now and again, it's mentioned in the news, but there should be some type of memorial, because the shame of military sexual trauma should not be on the survivor. It should be on the perpetrators. The survivors served and attempted to serve honorably. But if there is a list of those who have been killed as a result of military sexual trauma, I truly do believe it will be taken more seriously of not only the lasting effect, but the detrimental effects of military sexual trauma. I want to thank you for allowing me to speak. And I would like to introduce you to Kamala Lopez, the president of Equal Means Equal, and the award-winning filmmaker behind the documentary Equal Means Equal. Kamala has spent more than a decade working to establish full constitutional equality for women, and have worked with Senator Pat Spearman during Nevada's historic ratification of the Equal Rights Amendment. She will speak today about military sexual trauma in the context of federal law and constitutional equity. Thank you again. Kamala?
Thank you, Dr. Dickerson. My name is Kamala Lopez, and I am the president of Equal Means Equal and the filmmaker behind the award-winning documentary Equal Means Equal, which examined sex discrimination throughout American law and became part of the national campaign to revive the Equal Rights Amendment. Through that work, I had the privilege of working with then Nevada State Senator Patricia Spearman, who led Nevada's historic ERA ratification in 2017. and I am proud to still be working with her today. I want to begin with a contradiction that should trouble every American. Women are fighting and dying to defend a constitution that our federal government still refuses to acknowledge as guaranteeing their equality. They put on the uniform, they leave their families, they surrender freedoms the rest of us take for granted. They enter a rigid chain of command, they serve in combat, and they agree, if necessary, to give their lives for this country. And yet we have not given them unequivocal equality under the Constitution they defend. Military sexual trauma exposes the consequences of that inequality. The misogyny and sexual violence women confront in civilian life does not disappear when people put on uniforms. In fact, women in the military enter a historically male-dominated culture built around hierarchy, obedience, aggression, and force. And when sexual violence occurs inside that structure, where does a servicewoman go? The institution controls her assignments, her evaluations, her advancement, her reputation, her livelihood. Reporting an assault can be risking the career she has spent years building. Women may remain silent out of fear of retaliation, ostracism, lost opportunities, or being pushed out of the military altogether. And then comes the terrible irony. That helped her survive the institution can later be used against her when she needs help. Because she didn't report it then, she may struggle to prove it now. And unlike a civilian woman sexually assaulted in her workplace, a servicewoman has historically faced another enormous barrier. Under the Ferris Doctrine, members of our armed forces have been largely prevented from suing the federal government for injuries arising from their military service. So think about what we've done. We ask women to serve, we place them inside a system they cannot simply walk away from. That system may discourage them from reporting sexual violence. We restrict their ability to hold the institution legally accountable. And years later, we demand proof of the very trauma they were afraid to report. That is not equality. Congress is finally beginning to recognize that this system must change. The bipartisan Military Sexual Trauma Accountability Act, S 4877, introduced this summer, would create a specific avenue for service members to sue the United States for military sexual trauma, and that is an important start. But equality cannot simply mean giving women an equal opportunity to fight, to sacrifice, to be wounded, and to die. Equality must mean equal protection, equal dignity, equal accountability when she is harmed, and equal recognition of the injuries she carries home. Nevada understands the power of acting when the federal government fails to act. In 2017, you became the first state in nearly 4 decades to ratify the Equal Rights Amendment. Illinois followed. Virginia followed. 38 states completed ratification, and Equal Means Equal's position is clear. The ERA has already passed. It must be published and acknowledged by our federal government. Today, Nevada has another opportunity to lead. Military sexual trauma presents an overwhelming case for presumptive recognition, precisely because trauma, fear, retaliation, and military hierarchy can prevent survivors from creating the documentation we later demand from them. We cannot punish women today for the silence our own institutions demanded of them yesterday. I urge Nevada to call upon Congress to establish presumptive recognition of service-connected conditions resulting from military sexual trauma. The women who defend our Constitution should never have to fight their own government to prove that what happened to them while serving their country was real. Thank you. I would now like to introduce Sergeant First Class Dixie Thompson, U.S. Army retired and former military police. She is an award-winning and Amazon best-selling author of nonfiction books for military women, guiding them to resources to live their best lives after military service. She volunteers with various organizations and serves on the executive board for Women Veterans of Nevada. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kamala. I am Sergeant First Class Dixie Thompson, U.S. Army retired. I enlisted in the Women's Army Corps in 1973. At that time, it was presumed that any woman who was enlisting was either a lesbian or a slut. This left it wide open for the men to do as they wanted with the women. There were no repercussions for the men. A woman reporting a sexual assault or harassment was more likely to find herself being discharged. I served in Germany with many draftees coming from tours in Vietnam to finish out their service. As military police, they knew firsthand that sexual assaults were rarely prosecuted. As one of the first 3 women MPs to be assigned overseas to a full MP company, each of us was assigned to a different platoon. We were working different shifts. We rarely saw each other. As female MPs, we soon learned what the men already knew. Sexual assaults were rarely prosecuted, and the women were blamed and court-martialed or otherwise punished for reporting the offense. As a military policewoman standing nearly 6 feet tall and carrying a Smith & Wesson .45 for 8 to 12 hours a day on duty, this probably contributed to me receiving fewer unwanted advances. However, I have never applied for benefits for MST under PTSD guidelines, as living through it once was more than enough. As an MP, I saw many women who had been sexually assaulted, and unfortunately, the best advice I could give them was to not report it and stay in the command under very unpleasant circumstances, sometimes including further assaults. They could also request transfer or face a discharge from service for reporting it. In some cases, the women became pregnant, and under Women's Army Corps regulations, they were discharged anyway. No matter the specific circumstances, these women were traumatized by the military sexual trauma of rape and sexual assault that stayed with them for life. And they deserve to be compensated for the treatment they received while serving their country, without being further traumatized by having to relive that experience, sometimes several times over, in order to receive benefits from the VA. By making military sexual trauma a presumptive, these women have a better chance of being treated, begin healing, and living without the current stigma of having reported their sexual assaults. Thank you for listening. And I would like to introduce the Reverend Dr. Maureen Burns, the former Staff Sergeant Burns, our country's youngest drill sergeant at age 19. She still holds that honor. She is the chaplain of the Fellowship of Affirming Ministries and City of Refuge United Church of Christ in Oakland, California, and here at Northwest Community Church. She is also the owner and founder of RubyRisingHomes.com, a real estate investment company for veterans. Dr. Mo.
Thank you. Good evening, and thank you for allowing me to speak today. In April 1979, I enlisted in the United States Army Reserve and was stationed at Fort Jackson, South Carolina. I was proud to serve my country and took seriously my oath to defend it against all enemies, foreign and domestic. On June 12, 1980, I returned to my original AIT, Bravo 15-4 at Fort Jackson, as the country's youngest drill sergeant, age 19. While attending an off-base gathering, I was abducted, beaten, and gang raped for 4 hours by 3 senior drill sergeants, men who were my supervisors and whom I should have been able to trust. When I reported what they'd done to me, I was not believed. The 3 men protected one another, and I was left to carry the consequences alone. The assault caused devastating and permanent injuries. My injuries and surgeries included 8 cracked ribs, a radical hysterectomy, removal of my gallbladder, sexually transmitted hepatitis C, and pelvic inflammatory disease. These conditions are documented in my medical records. The damage was not only physical. For decades, I have lived with complex post-traumatic stress disorder, shame, stigma, and the emotional pain of not being believed. I have been off and on Social Security disability benefits for many years. Today, at age 66, I am receiving hospice care as I live with stage 4 kidney disease and congestive heart failure. I took an oath to fight all enemies, foreign and domestic, and I did fight. That night, I fought fiercely against 3 combat-trained soldiers. I survived, but I was gravely wounded, both physically and morally. The assault also left me unable to bear children. The mortal injury was to my mental health. Sergeant First Class Wilson had me labeled bipolar. He had it put into my military jacket, my permanent record. He had a psychiatrist degree. I was put on lithium, toxic amounts, unchecked for 2 decades. It caused diabetes and kidneys failure, which I am now at the age of 66 dying from. I was put in hospice care June 12th here in Las Vegas. I was put in community care for mental health, and 3 independent psychiatrists reevaluated me. This panel declared I was misdiagnosed, not bipolar. I had CPTSD and moral injury only. The VA verified it and removed it from my record and archived it. The VA apologized. I have been on no mental health for months, and I've never been clearer. The meds caused my problems, not the condition. I am a proud lesbian, and I had to blatantly deny my entire military career because it was punishable crime with immediate dishonorable discharge during the years I served. This denial caused me to be seen as straight, single, and available. So I was hit on and harassed by men constantly. In 2000, as a chaplain's candidate at the pinnacle of my career, I walked away because I could no longer endure the appalling ongoing abuse, disrespect, and sexual discrimination of serving as a woman and a lesbian. These wounds have suffered a lifetime. I have a request, and my request is specific. I ask that I be, when soldiers fight for their country and are wounded by an enemy, their courage and sacrifice are often recognized with a medal. I fought against fellow service members, men who were supposed to serve beside me and protect me, but I have received no recognition for the wounds I've suffered. And as stated, I'm dying and in hospice care. These wounds have lasted a lifetime. My request is specific. I ask that I be awarded an honorary Purple Heart to be presented posthumously to my family. I want my family to have the Purple Heart as the lasting recognition of the truth. I served my country. I honored my oath. I fought for my life. I was gravely wounded, and I was a brave soldier. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Dr. Moe. Mr. Chair, this concludes the presentation portion, and there may be people on the phone I don't know that want to speak. And so if there are, I'll come back after them and give my closing remarks, if that's okay.
Thank you, Senator. We're asking if there's anybody who is on the phone to reserve their remarks for the public comment period that we'll have at the end of this meeting. And at this time, I want to thank the senator and her presenters, her co-presenters, for having this presentation made in front of the committee today. Members, the presentation we just heard is not connected to a recommendation in today's work session document. Oh, sorry. At this time, we'll close the hearing on the presentation. And at this time, members, the presentation we just heard is not connected to a recommendation in today's work session document. However, it is an actionable agenda item, and I would entertain a motion from the committee to act on this matter. Specifically, I recommend the committee request the drafting of an official letter to Nevada's congressional delegation urging federal legislative action to improve access to services for veterans affected by military sexual trauma. As we heard, military sexual trauma is often underreported, but it is a serious and persistent issue within the military, and consideration should be given to treating it as a presumptive condition for purposes of assessing care and benefits. Is the committee inclined to support this recommendation, or it may be amended prior to a vote? Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the recommendation.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. Thank you, Senator and co-presenters. At this time, we will move on to agenda item 5, which is a presentation on the delivery of services to Nevada veterans from nonprofits. Presenters will be Levi Schultz, President and CEO of the Nevada Veterans Fund, and Paige Miller, Program Director of U.S. Vets Las Vegas. Please begin when you're ready.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chair and Vice Chair.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Thank you for having us. I'm here joined by Dr. Cornelius Jones, who will be helping me present today on some of the services that the Nevada Veterans Fund has been doing. We're going to bring up our presentation here really quick. I would first like to start out by acknowledging the 18 fallen Iran conflict service members who've lost their lives, and Officer Abdel Nabi as well. Veterans are fighting for, active duty service members are fighting for our freedom right now abroad, and I think that it's important that we understand that freedom is not indeed free. And I also would like to defer to that very compelling testimony before I myself am a MST survivor. During the Don't Ask, Don't Tell period, I could not report my MST because of the current policies of the military at that time. So I'd like to acknowledge that. But today we're going to talk a little bit about what the Nevada Veterans Fund does. We've been doing a lot of work on the ground. I'm the president and founder. So our mission is dedicated to honoring the service and sacrifice of Nevada's veterans by providing direct support, essential resources, and community-based assistance through partnerships, education, and advocacy. We ensure every veteran and their family is treated with dignity, respect, and honor as they navigate life beyond military service. That's very important to me. I'm a Navy veteran, as well as Dr. Jones here. One of our biggest initiatives has been our food pantry. So our food pantry has delivered over 800 meals across Southern Nevada. So from Laughlin and Pahrump all throughout Clark County, and we actually have the geographic data to show where the hot spots are for those needs. So we can provide them to you, members of the legislature, to show you what districts in particular are some of the hot spots for food insecurity. So this initiative started in November of last year. And when we realized that the SNAP benefit cuts were coming, I decided to start with my pantry. I pulled all the food out of my pantry, much to my husband's dislike, and I delivered 2 bags of food, the first 2 bags. And it was not just for veterans at that time. After that, I subsequently delivered 600 of those deliveries myself personally, packing, shopping, packing, and delivering same day, along with our community partners. And we could not do that without the donations we received. Some of our donations have included to 3,915 children. That's probably gone up because we are a continuous operation, and we've been delivering since I made this brief. As I said, it's been all over the Southern Nevada Valley that we've been providing this assistance. These are some of the photos that we have for the service that we've done. As you can see, the community has been pouring out donations of food to us. It's been tremendous. We've had quite a bit of community support. We could not do this without our community partners, including the delivery. We actually had delivery assistance from some Marine poolies, and the Leatherneck Club helped us pack and send off some of these deliveries as well. So we've been able to be quite successful with this operation. Another resource that we provide is homelessness outreach. So every other Saturday, we go down to the tunnels with Shine a Light. We have a partnership where we go down and we provide resources to the veterans that are down there. We specifically ask, are you a veteran? Some of the impressive figures are, together we've walked over 130 miles and provided over 200 hours of service to the folks that are living down beneath the city tunnels. Rob Banghart is a really great partner over at Shine a Light and helping us provide resources and allowing us to go down and specifically ask about our vets that are down there. We also take elected officials down with us so that they can see the issues head on and also witness some of the gaps. One of the gaps that we've identified is that the CRRC, which is the referral center for veterans, is not open on weekends. So when you find a homeless veteran on a Saturday, they cannot get housing reference until Monday. So that's a massive problem with the system. And unfortunately, when you're talking about people that are unhoused, they're traveling about the city just to survive. So it's difficult to get them to go to the CRRC and say, hey, this is the address, you need to be there. There's so many barriers like transportation and also affordability. So we make sure we're there and we identify the gaps and we let our officials know specifically what those gaps are. Here's some of the photos of our team out doing the work. We're out in the tunnels. I have my signature overalls on in the photo. So we're out there doing the work in the tunnels, getting people out and providing resources. One of the things we do is we try to get folks to come with us, but it's very difficult when you talk about homeless vets. There's already a barrier for those who are facing substance use and mental health issues. But when you approach someone who's a homeless veteran, you're basically saying to them, it'd be like me coming up to one of you and saying, hey, come with me, I'll make your life 10 times better. And you just leave everything behind and trust me. It's a very difficult thing to get someone to do, especially when you're providing services and they've been through the system perhaps so many times and they face kind of exploitation with that system. So we try our very best to be good stewards, to make them feel welcome and to get them off the street. And once again, I want to give a shout out to those at Shine a Light. Rob's doing a fantastic job with that. We provide community assistance. So we do utility assistance grants. So, one of the things is that we have entities that exist already in the city that provide housing assistance to veterans once they do not have housing. We try to help veterans keep what they have, right? So most of the time, these issues result in it's like a $200 difference. So if someone contacts us, they say, hey, I'm $200 short on my rent or my utilities, I'm not going to have electricity or air conditioning. We do what we can to try to approve a utility assistance micro grant to help them. So we usually go up to about $500 for those grants based on funding, right? Funding is the key for that, for us to be able to do that. But we've managed to give out about $3,200 in utility assistance grants. We've given out 4 appliances. So we gave out a stove to an 84-year-old Vietnam vet, washer and dryer to newly moved veterans to Nevada who are getting settled here. And then we gave an AC unit to a veteran who has a heart condition and was in need of an AC unit. And we also paid for the installation of that unit as well. And that was just this past Saturday. We also did yard work for a veteran. So we did some yard work for an 84-year-old vet. We brought the mayor pro tem of North Las Vegas out to realize that the city needs to ask more questions when they're giving out these citations. So this veteran just kept getting these citations and no one dared to knock on the door and ask, hey, are you a veteran? And he ended up being a veteran who needed a surgery on his foot and could not do it, 84 years old. So we came out, we helped, we got those citations squared away. We've also provided 413 kits, hygiene kits to help Genesis Veteran Transitional Housing and the VA Medical Center. So we did VA hospital visits to make sure that our fellow vets are taken care of in the VA hospital, giving them hygiene kits because sometimes they stay longer than a day. And so we did that as well. This is some of the pictures of our community assistance to include honoring veterans. So we've honored veterans who are oftentimes underappreciated, one of which was a Vietnam vet in the historic West Side, and Bishop Bill McDonald, who was a Vietnam vet, who talked about some of the trauma and the PTSD that he had from serving in Vietnam. We also do a coffee, claims, and donuts event as well, so people can come by and chat. We also did another event where we were providing, we're helping to ensure that veterans became poll workers to get involved in our democracy. So these are some of the photos of some of those events that we've done. We also do a VSO partnership. So we work with Eddie Valdez, who's in the room, to send veterans his way for VA claims to get their benefits increased, which is great because a lot of veterans in areas like the historic West Side do not have the opportunity or access to VSOs. And a lot of the times they may not know how the system system works. So he helps them navigate that. And that's in partnership with Eddie Valdez, who is a VFW VSO. He does a fantastic job with our veterans. And I'd like to thank both the VFW and Eddie Valdez for his work. He managed to assist some of our Vietnam vets who aren't getting the rating they deserve and some of the compensation that is well earned. Well, so far we've managed to get roughly 20 folks out to him, and he's managed to resolve quite a few of those claims. So every quarter we produce a report. The report looks like this. It talks about what we've done that quarter, and it's to make sure that we're accountable to the community and our membership and the folks who volunteer with us. So this quarter report is actually, as I said, say here in the brief, is outdated. We managed to deliver 809 meal boxes directly to the doors of folks, and we are on par to reach 1,000 in mid-October. So that's going to be a big celebration for us and a massive milestone. It also talks about the miles walked for the homelessness outreach. And since then, we managed to give another $1,000 in utility grants and increased our number of VSO referrals to 20. Here's the ways to find us. This is how You can find us online if you want to be a part of what we're doing. We believe in impact and we believe in service. Our organization is committed to that. One of the tenets that I set out to establish this organization to do is to provide actual boots on the ground service, and to be able to refer veterans to adequate services, if not be able to provide them ourselves. And we've managed to do that. We've, matter of fact, while I was sitting in this committee meeting, we have a veteran we were working with named Monty who just got affordable housing. So we referred him directly to a community partner that provides low cost housing. And he was able to get a first floor unit for his wheelchair to get in and out of the unit. And it's within his price range. And we managed to help him with his down payment on that as well. So that's great. That's fantastic news. Funding. So it takes money to do this. And this is why we're here today, to talk about the facts and figures about nonprofits and some of the funding that it takes to do the work that we do. Our food pantry is probably the most expensive thing that we do, especially with costs of expenses going up. When I first started doing the food pantry, it was nailed down to, and we buy the same standard items, the same standard staples, if we're not donated to. It was $177.83 to feed 10 families. That's including the boxes expense. So $177.83 at Walmart got you the generic items that were staples: pancake mix, syrup, pasta, canned chicken breast, tuna. It's a standard kit that we would provide for 10 folks or 10 families. And that has gone up significantly. So we're probably at about $287 in the cost now for some of the standard items that we buy. Of course, there have been some substitutions there with some of the items, but that's roughly what we pay to support 10 to 12 families. We managed to do all this work with generous donations from the community. So with the facts and figures, you can see the community has come out in great fashion to help us do what we do. Through our social media efforts, we've managed to fundraise quite a bit of money to do this. But I think that in becoming a partner with the state and our local municipalities, we could really do so much more work, especially with our homelessness outreach, with the food pantry itself, and in providing and looking for some of those gaps that we have within the system. I do want to say that none of us get a salary for this. None of our folks are paid a salary. We're all volunteers. Some of those volunteers are in this room. Myself, I work a day job, as well as everybody else within my team. And we, as a leader, I've demanded quite a bit from my team, and I appreciate the work that they've put in, as well as the overwhelming support we have from the community. I would like to also discuss some of the research work that we do at Nevada Veterans Fund on issues, particularly policy issues. And that research work is conducted by Dr. Cornelius Jones. I'll let him introduce himself.
Greetings, everyone. Greetings, Chairman DeSilva, Co-Chair Cruz Crawford, and the entire committee. So my name is Dr. Cornelius Jones. I'm a psychological scientist. I lead a team of researchers through the Psychological Research Initiative. And one of the things that we've been working on for the last several months is research that was recently published in the Advances in Applied Sociology journal. And the research is entitled "The Negative Impact of Nevada Property Tax Rules for 100% Disabled Veterans, a Legal and Policy Analysis." And so, to respect the time of the committee, I will give you the executive summary. Under Nevada Revised Statute 361.091, Nevada provides a tier property tax exemption for veterans with service-connected disabilities. However, unlike many states that grant full property tax relief to 100% disabled veterans, Nevada caps the maximum benefit at $35,400 of assessed property value. Because this fixed dollar cap has not kept pace with Nevada's rapid appreciating real estate market, it fails to achieve its core goal of ensuring housing security for severely disabled veterans. Instead, current state policy creates severe affordability gaps, produces regressive distribution outcomes, and increases foreclosure risks for low-income veterans living on fixed disability benefits. Now, how the CAP operates in practice for a 100% disabled veteran with a home assessed at $350,000 near Nevada's medium, the $35,400 exemption applies to only 10.1% of the assessed value. The veteran remains liable for taxes on the remaining $314,600, resulting in an average property tax bill of approximately $1,888. Excuse me. Key policy deficiencies with this is the market erosion is inadequate relief. The $35,400 cap is not indexed to inflation, cost of living adjustments, or market appreciation. The depreciation real benefit as home values in Clark, Washoe counties appreciate by 50 to 80% over the last decade. The fixed exemption covered a progressively smaller fraction of actual property tax bills, income strain, annual property tax liability, consumed roughly 4.8% of medium VA 100% disability compensation, which is on average between $47,000 and $50,000 a year, compared to 2 to 3% for higher income homeowners. The regressive distribution effects. Horizontal inequity, 200% disabled veterans received the identical $35,400 tax reduction regardless of income or home value. Disproportionate burden. A low-income veteran living in a modest $150,000 home receives 23.6% proportional tax relief, but their residual tax bill consumes a much larger share of their total household income than higher earning cohorts. Implementation barriers and underutilization. Administrative friction, requirements for manual application and periodic recertification through a county assessor's office creates barriers for veterans with severe cognitive mobility or service-connected disabilities, PTSD, TBI, etc. Information. Transitioning to online first filing systems isolates rural or low tech veterans, depressing actual utilization rates well below the eligible population. And then there's a housing instability and foreclosure risk, displacement threat. Fixed property tax liabilities coupled with fixed disability incomes force vulnerable veterans into tax delinquency and potential tax foreclosure proceedings, directly undermining Veteran Housing Stability Initiative. The legislative recommendation for this is to align Nevada policy with tax equity principles and veteran housing security goals. The legislation should consider the following statutory reforms: index the statutory cap, amend Nevada Revised Statute 361.09 to index the exemption cap to the Consumer Price Index, CPI, or regional housing market revaluation metrics to prevent ongoing erosions. Adopt a progressive or full exemption model, transition 100% disabled veterans to a complete property tax exemption, or establish a sliding scale exemption tied to household income, full exemption for households below 150 to 200% of the federal poverty line. Then streamline administrative access, automate qualification verification in partnership with the VA and county assessor, eliminate redundant recertification requirements, and expand outreach to rural and disabled veteran populations. Impact tracking, direct the Nevada Department of Taxation to conduct biannual evaluations tracking veteran exemption, utilization rates, tax delinquency, and housing retention. The conclusion of this really is Nevada current property tax rule falls short of providing meaningful relief to 100% disabled veterans. Without a statutory update to address the market inflation and administrative complexity, the state will continue to shift cost burdens onto veterans who have already sacrificed significantly in service to the nation. Modernizing Statute 361.091 ensures tax fairness while protecting vulnerable veterans for housing insecurity. So the complete policy analysis can be found in the journal that I mentioned earlier, but my team and I, we were very diligent and looking at what works in other states and comparing it to what Nevada currently has. And unfortunately, when we have 216,000 veterans here, it's only really a small population of our veterans that are at 100% rate. And I understand that that tax dollars, property tax dollars goes into the school, but also recognizing that the majority of where the taxes come from is not from property tax. So I think there's an opportunity for the legislative body to work on behalf of truly honoring veterans who are 100% through revising this statute. Thank you very much for your time.
Well, as you can see, Dr. Jones is much added value to our operation, and the fact that we operate in metrics and in data. His study and diligence in the study has been spectacular when it comes down to doing some of the research on economic impact. So our organization, in closing, is here to do on the ground work, to provide direct impact, and to make sure that we are serving our veterans to the best of our ability when it comes down to keeping what they have. We try to make sure that every veteran we encounter does not hit such dire circumstances as to lose everything. So when we talk about our utility assistance grants, the utility assistance grant is designed to help them keep their apartments, keep their homes, keep their cars running. You know, I've shown up in those infamous coveralls to help vets work on their cars. So I'm an active president of the organization and directly serving our veterans and showing up in moments of great fear and panic for those who are facing financial insecurity. Our homelessness outreach operation is what we seek to increase. So if we are ever able to amass the funds that it requires to manage such a program, we will continue to grow and continue to find those gaps. We work currently with some of our partners to make sure that there is use of their overflow beds. So we make sure that every bed is packed. And if we can put a veteran in that bed, we try to. We are also seeking some additional partnerships within the community to make sure that we can continue to provide the best service for our veterans. But I would like to thank this committee for its service to veterans as well. Chair De Silva, for being a Marine. You know, I'm not a Marine, I'm a sailor, but hey, you guys ride on our equipment all the time. So, so we do a pretty good job hauling you guys around. But in all fairness, great work to everybody. And I'd really like to thank my team and the tremendous work that we've been able to do. Next year, we're on par to do twice as much as what we're doing now, and we'll continue to grow. But hopefully, we have your support and getting some grant dollars so we can continue to operate. Thank you all very much for your time, and I'd like to conclude my portion of the presentation.
Thank you. We have a part 2 of this presentation, I believe, from U.S. Vets.
Chair De Silva, Vice Chair Cruz Crawford, and members of the committee, thank you for having me here this evening. I am Paige Miller. I am the fairly newly appointed Executive Director of U.S. Vets Las Vegas. I'm also a proud Air Force spouse and a daughter of a Marine who served our country for 30 years. Today, I'd like to share a little bit about how nonprofit organizations in Southern Nevada operate and deliver services to veterans experiencing homelessness. I'd also like to tell you about the challenges that we see on the ground and the opportunities that I think we can partner on together to improve the lives of veterans experiencing homelessness and strengthen those systems. Unfortunately, the data shows that the need remains significant for veterans experiencing homelessness. In January of this year, Clark County conducted its annual point-in-time count and determined that 8,859 individuals were experiencing homelessness, of which 605 were veterans. Veterans become homeless for many of the same reasons that non-veterans do. Two of the biggest factors are lack of affordable housing and poverty. A veteran may be doing everything right, and they are still just one small crisis away from becoming homeless. These crises include job loss, medical expenses, or one rent increase. It is often the result of several pressures coming together at the same time. But with the right intervention, it is something that we can prevent and solve. US Vets is the nation's largest organization supporting veterans experiencing homelessness or at risk of experiencing homelessness. Across the country, we operate 49 residential sites and 9 community service centers in 7 states, the District of Columbia, and Guam. We help more than 20,000 veterans and their families every year. While every veteran's journey is different, our goal remains the same: to help veterans regain stability, independence, and hope. I show this slide because it illustrates something important that can sometimes get lost when we talk about programs for veterans experiencing homelessness and funding. Veteran services do not happen in isolation. They are a continuum. It often begins with outreach. On the left hand of the slide, number 1, meeting veterans where they are and building trust in the tunnels, streets, prisons, libraries, and encampments. After the initial outreach, we then move to step 2, where we assess what is happening with that veteran. What do they need? Do they need housing? Do they need medical attention? Do they need an identification card? Have they lost their birth certificate? Is there an immediate safety concern that we can attend to? From there, we work to stabilize the situation. Sometimes that means preventing an eviction. Sometimes that means putting somebody into bridge or transitional housing, which we do offer at our main site, 132 beds for veterans experiencing homelessness on East Bonanza. But providing housing is only the beginning. We continue to support veterans through case management, behavioral health, employment, connection to the VA, and other community resources. Ultimately, the goal is to sustain that stability so that the veteran does not return to homelessness. This entire process requires nonprofit organizations, federal agencies, local government, state government, landlords, healthcare providers, employers, the VA, and community organizations to work together. This year, US Vets Las Vegas will celebrate its 25th anniversary. And we operate in 4 leased locations offering transitional, permanent, and bridge housing. But our work extends well beyond housing. We provide behavioral health services, case management, employment assistance, housing navigation, outreach, and other supportive services to address the barriers that contributed to homelessness. This wraparound approach is important because simply handing a veteran a key does not necessarily create long-term stability. Prevention is one of the areas that I want to emphasize today. Not every veteran who needs our help is homeless. Sometimes the difference between remaining housed and becoming homeless is one unexpected crisis. Through our program called Supportive Services for Veteran Families, eligible veterans receive help with rent or eviction prevention, utilities, rapid rehousing, housing navigation, and connection to other community resources. Once a veteran becomes homeless, the path back is generally more difficult, more disruptive, and more expensive. This is why we believe at US Vets that prevention needs to be a significant part of our strategy in Nevada. One of the biggest bottlenecks to prevention is housing. Even when we have strong programs across the state and a veteran is ready for housing, we still have to find somewhere for that veteran to live. There are 3 issues related to housing as one of our biggest bottlenecks. First is affordability. Rent continues to be difficult for many veterans we serve. Second is availability. Even when a veteran has rental assistance or a voucher, landlord participation can be limited. And third is accessibility. For veterans with mobility limitations or disabilities, the number of appropriate units becomes even smaller. Services alone cannot end veteran homelessness. And if there is nowhere affordable and appropriate to place veterans, prevention is nearly impossible. In 2025, you can see the outputs that US Vets Las Vegas achieved in our community. This provides you with the scope and scale of the work that we did. Behind all of these numbers is a person. So while we had more than 14,000 mental health assessments, that number represents screening for those veterans and their families who may require additional assistance with their mental health. Every job placement represents greater financial independence. And these outcomes are only possible through community partnerships with government, nonprofit, philanthropic, and community partners working towards the same goal. Even with the incredible progress that US Vets achieved in 2025, we and other nonprofits still face several significant challenges. The first one is what I've already mentioned, housing affordability and limited inventory. The second is the operational pressure on nonprofit providers. While US Vets Las Vegas is 81% funded by the federal government, thanks to the VA and the Housing and Urban Development Agency, we still have operational costs that require additional fundraising and support. This includes paying for salaries, our 4 leased facilities, transportation, case management, and administrative infrastructure. These costs do not disappear simply because a particular funding source does not cover them. We also operate within a fragmented funding and eligibility system. A veteran may qualify for one program, but not another. For example, one funding source may pay for rent, but not transportation. So it makes it impossible for that veteran to find employment and be able to reach that location. At the same time, the veterans coming through our doors have increasingly complex and overlapping needs, such as aging, disability, behavioral health concerns, limited income, and employment challenges. Veterans do not experience these challenges in separate funding categories, but providers are required to respond through separate systems. This fragmentation can make an already difficult situation even harder for nonprofits to navigate. The good news is that I see that there are significant opportunities for Nevada. The first is prevention, as I emphasized earlier. The state can continue exploring ways to intervene earlier before a veteran enters the homelessness system. Second, we can coordinate systems more effectively. Veterans should not have to navigate multiple disconnected organizations and repeatedly tell their story just to find the correct resource. Better referrals and communication between systems can make an enormous difference. Third, we need to expand housing options in the community through affordable housing development, landlord engagement, accessible housing, and creative property solutions. Finally, we can build stronger partnerships between state and local government, federal agencies, nonprofit organizations, real estate companies, and other community partners. The opportunity for Nevada is not to duplicate programs that already exist. It is to ask, where are the gaps that federal programs cannot fill, and how can Nevada help close them? As we look forward to the next 25 years of US Vets Las Vegas, we have one goal, is a permanent campus, so we avoid the costly rent that we pay at 4 different facilities. We wish to have one permanent campus that allows us to bring more housing and supportive services together. We are still in the early planning and feasibility stage, but we're looking for partnerships to explore acquisition, rehabilitation, or adaptive reuse of existing properties. And we welcome your perspective and the partnership of state and local leaders as our vision develops. Our goal is to create a sustainable home for this work for the next 25 years and beyond. In closing, if there are only 3 things that you remember from my presentation, I would like for them to be these. First, veteran homelessness is solvable. We know this because we move veterans into their permanent homes every day. Second, prevention matters just as much as responding after homelessness occurs. And third, Nevada has an opportunity to strengthen outcomes by closing gaps that federal programs cannot reach. There isn't a need to recreate systems that already exist. We need to make those systems work better. US Vets will continue to serve veterans in our community, hopefully for 25 more years and beyond. And we thank you for your partnership and for your commitment to Nevada's veterans. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And at this time, I'd like to call up President Schultz, along with you, Director Miller, to answer any questions from the committee. And committee, are there any questions?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to thank both of you for all of your work. I know it's a late evening for everybody, so I won't belabor, but thank you for everything you do for our community.
And I would also like to chime in on that and also say thank you for the tremendous work that you've been doing for the last 25 years and also for the last 2 years, I believe, right? Is it? So we have a great example here of a national organization and a local organization presenting to us and letting us know just how important it is to partner with nonprofit organizations who are really the boots on the ground when it comes to serving our veterans in our communities. So again, thank you so much for your presentation today. Committee members, any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you. That concludes our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, we will move on to our next and last agenda item, which is public comment. As a reminder, we ask that public comments be kept to 2 minutes so everyone interested in speaking can be accommodated. Is there anyone in Las Vegas who wishes to provide public comment?
Good afternoon, Chairman De Silva and Vice Chair Cruz Crawford and members of the Senior Citizens, Veterans and Adults with Special Needs Legislative Committee. My name is Fred Wagar, W-A-G-A-R, and I am the National Legislative Chair for the Veterans of Foreign Wars Department of Nevada. Before I begin my comments, I would like to thank Senator Rogich and Assemblywoman Edgeworth for their service on this committee. And in the legislature, they both happen to be my representatives in my district. So thank you for that. We go by laws in this country. And I want you to know that recently a court decision was made by the Middle District Court in North Carolina, the U.S. District Court. And I provided you the assessment of that, and you have that in your hands or in your area. I won't give you the whole 20-page document. It's much easier to read this other one. This court case was between Ford v. Veterans Guardian VA Claim Consulting LLC. Veterans Benefits Guide is a 4-fee claim predator in Nevada and operates in the same way as Veterans Guardian. The predator states they are not claims agents and therefore do not have to be accredited. And that's what this case is all about. The court found that the claim predator was acting as an uncredited VA agent when it prepared and presented veterans' disability claims for a fee in violation of federal law. The claim predator takes all actions the same as an accredited individual. The veteran's only role is to review the packet, sign where indicated, and drop the envelope in the mail. Additionally, the claim predator instructs veterans not to disclose their involvement to the VA. The court went on to find that for initial claims, accredited agents are legally prohibited from charging any fee under 38 USC. The claim predator charged anyway. The court has now established a company that prepares everything and hands the veteran a signed envelope is acting as an agent. The court stated that all fees charged by the claim predator for initial claims were illegal under federal law. The court states claim predators may find that there is now solid foundation for future litigation against them in states that have unfair and deceptive trade practice statutes. You don't have to close the doors as they indicate. You can simply become accredited. They say there's a huge backlog. The current numbers show that we have 55 veteran service officers in the state, 42 lawyers, and 13 claims agents, all accredited. There is no backlog in initial claims. It takes 75 days to get a claim done. The backlog is in appeals, and that's where the assistance is needed. They can become accredited and truly assist our veterans. Again, they don't have to close their doors. They can simply become accredited. And if they need assistance, we can help them become accredited. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate the pleasure of being here. Have a great night. Sorry it took so long.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, Madam Vice Chair, members of the committee, Stephen Cohen for the record. I tried to testify earlier, but didn't want to take away from the bravado of the folks that testified. So I won't belabor the points regarding agenda items A3, B4, and C. And then regarding A2, my request would be during the drafting process to split the funding a third versus 2/3 for the 7th. In addition, if possible, I would request that the work session be reopened, sorry folks, to address the following letters in particular, and then work with the members on additional BDRs as well for folks that have them available. So the first one would be to LOE to request that this committee be renamed as Senior Citizens, Veterans, and Adults with Disabilities. In addition, it would request that the committee, whatever name it takes after this upcoming session, have for more than 6 BDRs. The issues before this committee are unique in nature and deserve proper consideration. Furthermore, would request a cleanup bill removing special needs from all statutes, administrative codes, and/or the state constitution. There is precedent for this in previous constitutional amendment removing deaf, blind, and dumb from the state constitution, which was long overdue. Furthermore, for LOE, would request that consideration be given to split off neurodiversity initiatives as its own interim and or regular committee. Again, the issues are unique in nature and deserve consideration as their own issue. Next, requesting a letter to judiciary to specifically identify people with disabilities as a vulnerable population under the abuse, neglect, etc. statutes. Finally, would request a letter with thanks to Assemblyman Patchett to the money committees to request that all members of this committee be added as co-sponsors to Assemblyman Patchett's forthcoming deaf, etc. school bill. And then, as of this afternoon, requesting a letter expressing thanks to the Director's Office, LCB Director's Office, for their ongoing efforts to improve the accessibility of the legislative process, and would request a letter to the money committees as well to request funding to continue those efforts. Finally, would request a letter to Commerce and Labor and HHS to request changes to the 700-hour program. The fancy name and statute is, I believe, temporary limited appointment program for people with disabilities. But because the program is 700 hours, that's where it comes known in the community. Thank you. I yield.
Chair De Silva, Vice Chair Cruz Crawford, members of the committee, my name is David McNeil. I am a 23-year retired veteran. I served first in the Nevada National Guard for 3 years and then 20 years in the United States Navy Submarine Force. I am a 100% disabled, permanent and total disabled veteran. I have had to go through the 1151 tort claim process with the VA for malpractice. I took care of that with the assistance of a Veterans of Foreign Wars service officer who filed the initial claim. I took care of the rest of it myself, 1 in 9 months. So when we talk about the difficulties of that process, I'm living proof that you can get through it on your own and with the assistance of a good service officer. Today, what I'd like to address is the efforts of claim predators, including Veterans Benefits Guide, that would allow uncredited, unregulated consultants to charge veterans for assistance with VA disability claims. While framed as consumer protection, it directly conflicts with federal law, creates a parallel claims assistance system that leaves veterans exposed to legal liability and Nevada responsible for the fallout, not the claim predators such as Veterans Benefit Guide. Under Title 38, accreditation is the federal standard for competence and accountability. It requires training, continuing education, ethical rules to be followed, and federal oversight. Federal law also defines representation broadly. Any paid assistance that prepares, develops, or advises on a VA disability claim is representation, even if the consultant claims to never submit a form. A recent case, Ford versus Veterans Guardian in North Carolina, which you've already heard about prior to this testimony from Fred Wagger. I will not belabor that point, but it does point out this infringement on Title 38, that what they are doing is illegal. They're stepping outside of the bounds, and that they are actively pursuing a process of seeking a secondary parallel claims assistance system that does not fall under those guidelines and avoids accountability and by definition avoids competency. Accredited representatives owe a federal recognized duty of competence. Consultants owe no duty at all. They cannot be disciplined by the VA, cannot be suspended, cannot be required to refund unreasonable fees. When there are mistakes made, be they missed deadlines, poor advice, misunderstanding of rating criteria, it is the veteran who holds that burden. That was the point of the Ford versus Veteran Guardians, also known as the Hubbard versus Veterans Guardians case, in that the veteran bears that consequence. Any proposed change to the state law allowing claim sharks to continue operating under their current business model conflicts directly with federal law. Title 38 caps the fees of past due benefits on appeals. The proposed legislation or change to our laws sees a 5 times increase in the monthly benefits as the cap, right? A future benefit multiplier that can easily exceed federal limits. Their waiver allowing fees during the first year after separation is also illegal. Federal protections cannot be waived, and a state cannot create a waiver. Additionally, the VA prohibits fees for assisting veterans for initial claims. Finally, the consumer protections in this proposal are superficial. A checkbox disclosure and a $10,000 penalty cap cannot replace federal accreditation, federal ethics rules, or federal oversight. Nevada would inherit complaints, enforcement burdens, and reputational harm for a federally regulated practice it cannot legally control. Veterans do deserve options, but those options must be lawful, safe, and accountable. Current proposals by claim predators are none of these things. Once more, we invite Veterans Benefit Guide to join us in serving veterans by becoming accredited. For these reasons, I respectfully urge the committee to reject any proposal that would allow any company, like Veterans Benefit Guide, to continue their practices that disregard and ask this committee to disregard federal requirements.
Seeing nobody else approaching the dais here in Las Vegas, we'll go to Carson City for public comment. Looks like a packed room up there. Okay, AVH, is there anybody online?
Thank you, Chair.
I'm sorry.
If you would like to provide public comment today, please press *9 or raise hand in the Zoom app to take your place in the queue. There are no callers wishing to provide public comment at this time.
Thank you. So this brings us to our last item, which is adjournment. But before we adjourn, I just want to say thank you to my fellow colleagues who are serving here on this committee. It's been a pleasure and honor serving with you during this interim. I also want to say a vowed thank you to the staff for supporting us and holding my hand. Holding my hand through this process. This was my first time actually serving as a chair. And there's a lot that I learned. And even in today's work session, I was a little bit nervous going in and not knowing exactly what the procedure may be. So I really want to thank you all, for helping us get through this interim, this meeting. And I look forward to continuing my service with you all. Committee members, are there any parting words as we look to close this committee? Okay, with that said, we are adjourned.